Hello Saxo fans, episode 32, part 1. Now this is a bit unusual for me. Decided to do a bit of a double header, mainly because the cylinder head, everything that needs doing to that was actually quite a lot of work. And I wanted to cover it all because it's all interesting stuff. So I decided to split the video into two parts. So part 1 will cover me prepping the cylinder head, which essentially is checking all of the valve seating and doing the valve lapping, making sure that's all good, and then getting everything off. This is the Saxo engine here that I need to rebuild the C2 cylinder head. And then part 2 will focus on rebuilding the cylinder head and getting it ready and basically to a position where it can sit on the shelf waiting for the rest of the engine build. That'll include, putting the cams in, rebuilding, putting the valves in. All of that good stuff will be in part 2. But yeah, so there was a lot of information and I really wanted to film it all. But anyway, so I'm going to drop the first video obviously now that you're watching, and then the second one probably in a couple of days time. So come back then. Hopefully you'll stick with it, but I promise you the end result is worth it. It looks brilliant with the inlet manifold on. It looks lovely, as you've seen. So, but anyway, there's a lot to do, so let's get on with it. Okay, cylinder head rebuild. Here we go, this is it. So before we go too far, I would like to just check the valve seats to make sure that they're going to seal correctly. Now, I'm not expecting any issues because these valves, all 16 of them, belong in this particular head. I've kept them in order, hopefully. And they've obviously been in this cylinder head for 70-odd thousand miles, or however old this cylinder head was. So yeah, they should be seated and sort of very well bedded. So I'm not expecting any issues, but we are going to check. Now I can do that. It's quite a simple method. You'll need some engineering glue to just identify if we've got any high or low spots or anything like that. If we do identify a problem, then you can get the valve lapping paste. Got 2 grades here, a fine and a coarse grade. As I say, I'm not expecting to use this at all, but obviously if we do, probably only need a fine grade anyway. So what we'll do is we'll get one marked up and I'll show you the process, and then I'll check all of them. And if there's any of them that do need a little bit of lapping, then obviously I'll pause it and I'll show you what we do with that as well. I don't have the valve stem seals in at this point, so the valves will just drop in nice and easily. They're all dry, there's no oil on any of them, so yeah, obviously it's not going to damage it by just dropping them in and out lightly. So first things first, let's get the engineering glue and sort one of the valves out. Right, first valve, intake valve at the camshaft end, sorry, cam belt end, should say. No other reason than it's the one that's closest to me. So process will be drop a fine thin smear of blue on the seat of the valve. We don't want too much. We want just enough to create a nice little layer. No high spots, no blobs basically. Just a nice layer. You'll get a feel for it if you do this yourself. Okay, so I can zoom in on that. With just enough of a layer there, maybe a high spot just on that side there, so I'll just wipe that off. Okay, quite happy with that. I'm going to drop this now into where it lives. So I kept all these numbered, so it should be its original location. Use the valve lapping tool, so essentially it's a wooden stick with a couple of different sized rubber plungers on the end. I'm going to have to use the bigger one for the intake valve. I'm going to pop that on the end, make it squeeze down, and I'm just going to rotate the valve clockwise and anti-clockwise all the way around a couple of times, and then we can pull the valve out. Okay, get rid of the tool. So what we're looking for on the back of the valve is that the blue has got a uniform line all the way around where it's touching the valve seat. which you can see there just in the middle, that sort of silver line. So that's looking really good. Really happy with that. So I'll clean the blue off there in a second. And then on the valve itself, sorry, on the seat itself I should say, we're looking for really nice blue coverage. Essentially a nice smooth smear of blue all on the valve seat. No missing spots, nowhere where it's gathered too much. I know that's quite difficult to see, but yeah, I'm really happy with that one. As I say, I wasn't expecting any issues, so that's come out really well. Right, so that's the first one done, all cleaned up. I'm going to go along now and check all the other ones. If any of them need lapping, then I'll pause the process and yeah, we'll go from there. Right then, so all of the valves have been checked for seating. Most of them were very good. There was a few here, and you can see on my little bit of paper I've got L for essentially just means lap. So they're the ones I thought were absolutely fine, to be honest, but I think they could be slightly better. So like I say, that they probably would never cause an issue, but I'm going to give them a go anyway. We'll start here with this exhaust one. That's just the first one I picked, so it's exhaust nearest to the cam belt number 3 of my numbering. Essentially you can number them however you like, as long as you remember how you've put them. I'm going to go straight in with the fine grade. I don't think the coarse grade is necessary. I'll say, you know, if we were miles off, maybe I'd start with this and then go to this, but I think they're pretty close anyway. I'm just looking to improve it a little bit. So let me dig this out of here and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Right, so as I just said, this is the fine grade. It's going to be the same sort of process of what I did with the engineering blue. So I'm just going to get a little blob of it. Just use my finger to get it out. On here, we'll start with that exhaust valve. I'm going to pop it on the back of the valve. So not too mental, just a healthy amount. Hopefully you can see that. Just get rid of the excess off my finger. Right, we'll drop that into its valve position. Let that sit down. And then we'll take our valve lapping tool. I'm going to use this new one because the seal on the small one is a bit better than my old one. So pop that on there. Make sure it's centralized. And I'm going to use just a bit of downward pressure. Just keep spinning it backwards and forwards. I don't know if you've picked that up on the microphone, but I can actually hear a slightly different sound as well from when I first put it in to now. Okay, so that's all I want to do. I don't want to go mad. So we'll clean off all of the paste from here and from the cylinder head, and we'll reapply the blue. So let me just get that set up. Right, valve's all blued up, ready to go back in, so let's have a quick look. It's all cleaned off there. Obviously just used a rag just to get away anything that was left over. Drop the valve in. Put that back on, we'll just give it a few twists and turns. Again, just a light pressure, nothing major. Okay, we'll pull that out. That looks pretty good to me. Fairly happy with that. I appreciate the focus is not great. There we go. Pretty happy with that. Let's just have a look at the cylinder head. Yep, fairly happy with that as well. Slightly better than what it was. Essentially what I saw before was a real, where you've got the mark of blue that's just thinned. It went really, really thin at one point. I just wasn't quite happy with it. But that seems much better. So I'll repeat the same now for all the others. And then, yeah, then we can finally get to actually assembling this for the final time. Right then, Saxo fans, so all the valves have been lapped. I decided just to give them all a quick once over in the end anyway. Obviously I focused on the ones that I'd marked especially, but I gave them all a quick run through anyway, so I'm happy they're all really good. And if you look at some of the sealing faces on them, yeah, really, really happy with how they've turned out, and I'm absolutely satisfied they're going to seal. Obviously I've given them a good clean off. I've cleaned off the opposing side of the cylinder head. But now it's time, before we move any further with putting these actually in for the final time, we do need to just get the valve stem seals fitted. So these fit down on those little brass inserts that you can see in there. Obviously 16 of those, one per valve. These I just bought off eBay, I think. They're not particularly expensive. I think they're like £1 or £2 per seal. I did remove the old ones. Yeah, I didn't show you that when I stripped the head down, but yeah, essentially just a pair of pliers and just pull them out, really pretty straightforward. So these ones, to get these fitted, pretty straightforward again. Let me just stick you in the stand. So all I do with these is grab a nice multi-point socket, 10mm, and it just so happens to fit in the seal really nicely, as in it won't crush it, but it will just hold it in place. You can see how much force I use to put that in. You know, hardly any force at all. Just pop that in there. There we go. And I'll slot that down onto the brass insert. I'll just feel it with my fingers to begin with, and I'll give it a good push. I'm fairly sure that's home. And then I'll just tap away very gently. I don't want to break the seal or anything like that. Try and do it as straight as possible until you hear a change in tone. There we go. Done. It is that simple. So I'll repeat that for the other 14, because I've already done the other one as well. So that's these two done, and I'll do that for the rest of them, and then we can carry on. Okay, now we have the stem seals fitted. I can pop the valves in knowing that the valves won't just fall out when I turn the cylinder head upside down. I still need to grab the valve springs out of the other engine, so that's the next thing I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is put these valves in, just put this to one side for half a day, and then I'm going to take the cylinder head off the other engine next. So this can sit on a shelf while we do that. So let's get these valves in and out of the way. Now, most people will probably whinge at this, what I'm about to do next. I'm going to just use ordinary engine oil here just to lubricate the valve stem seals for the first time. I probably should be using proper engine build oil, which is much, much thicker than normal engine oil. However, I have ordered it, it's just on its way, I haven't got it yet. So what I'm going to do is just put a dab of this ordinary engine oil on just to lubricate the seals. It probably means that when I first fire the car up, it's going to be a bit smoky, but that's obviously understood and known. So yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's pop the valves in, shall we? Okay, that's it. That's as far as we can go with that for now. So I'm going to pop this over on the shelf, and we'll wheel in the other engine and get the cylinder head off of it. All right then folks, so engine number 2 stripped down. We just need out of here valve springs and camshafts. That's pretty much it that I need to get at today. So I'm not going to do a full strip in this video, just top end. So we'll start off by taking off some of the big ticket items, get the exhaust manifold off, get the intake manifold off, remove all the harness. The things like all the oil cooler pipe, alternator and all that kind of stuff will probably stay where it is. Probably take the engine mount off. But yeah, anything basically that's in the way of getting the cylinder head off will come out of the way, because that's all I really want to focus on today. Then the other strip down, the bottom end strip down, will probably be in one of the next videos. But the first thing we're going to start with is taking the harness and the ECU and everything out of the way and getting that on the shelf and ready for a refurb at another time. But yeah, let's start with that, shall we? Right, so far so good. All the engine harness off. I took the coil pack off as you saw, and I've taken the exhaust manifold off. I suspect that exhaust manifold was fitted in the vehicle because all of the tricky bolts to get to were not tight in any way. But anyway, it is what it is. So next thing is to get the intake manifold off. I won't be using this intake manifold, as you know, but I do need the injector harness from it. So we'll have to take it apart a little bit, and I do need the throttle, as you already know from watching previous videos. So let's get this whole assembly off, and then I'll take the bits off that we need, and yeah, we can put the rest of it to one side. But I really want to get the timing belt off, so to do that I'm just going to make life a little bit easier and get rid of the engine mount. I suspect you probably could get it out without taking this off, but make life easier. It's all got to come off in the long run anyway. So these are pretty tight. Right, last little bit then before we take the cylinder head off is just to get the cam covers off. And one thing I've noticed is that taking a C2 engine apart is a bit more of a pain compared to the Saxo one. Just the belt side of it is a little bit different, not quite as simple as the Saxo one. Still relatively straightforward, but yeah, the Saxo ones are a bit nicer to take apart. So also looking at this looks like it's had some of the later cam cover gaskets fitted, which I'll show you in a sec. So get this off. Essentially the Saxo ones, when they've been on and off a few times, the rubbers perish and they leak a lot. So you get these little, yeah, I don't know what they're made of, nylon maybe? You get these little units instead, which sort it out, and they've doubled it with some silicone. Anyway, they all look in good condition. Still don't know whether I'm going to use these or the C2 ones yet, but yeah, I can use either if I choose to. Okay, cam covers out of the way. I am going to take the ladders off while the engine's on the stand here, rather than just the cylinder head, the head on the bench. I've marked up both the cams. I'm fairly sure there'll be some markings on them somewhere that tells you which is which, but yeah, just to be safe, I've put inlet on this one and exhaust on that one. So I'll undo all of the cam ladder bolts, get these ladders out, take the cams out. Obviously they're going to go through the parts wash, get oiled up, and then we'll put them into the new cylinder head when we rebuild it shortly. So let's get these out. There we go then, that's the cylinder head removed. I've pushed the short block just over the other side of the garage for now. So I needed the cams, which obviously I took out a minute ago. I'm going to take the tappets out and I'll lay them out. And of course I need the valve springs, so I'll have to use my valve spring compression tool to remove them. So I'm going to do this quite quickly and then we can get on to cleaning some bits up and putting them in straight into the other head. Let's get on with that. Right then folks, that's it. So with all of the bits here off the Saxo engine, we've got everything we need now from that particular unit for now. The next process is to start putting some of this stuff into the other cylinder head, the one that we're going to use, all of which we'll be doing in the next episode. So I'm not going to talk now too long because we're going to roll straight into the next one. So yeah, see you in a couple of days.